Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today here with a tree that is probably amongst the ones that had the strongest growth spurt the last growth season here. Now growth season is coming to an end and I want to give it one final prune before it goes into somewhat of a dormancy. Let's see if there will be a dormancy actually. I do expect it probably to continue still growing a little bit even through cold season, through winter. However, for that growth to still come in nicely, I want to give it a little bit of a prune. So let me just give you a look around this tree and you will definitely spot it has certain areas where it's very bushy, for example here on this little side branch. Here it still needs to fill in. This is because we took out a little branch that has been growing here around a year ago and it's starting to fill in nicely now, so we won't work too much on this, maybe simply work a little bit on the ramification, but we look at that in more detail then. And a little bit about this tree, it is actually 3 separate trees in here that I'm trying to grow as a clump-style bonsai, so I have tied them together, hoping by them growing that they will start to fuse together down here at the base, creating a nice clump-style looking tree. So enough about what is planned for this tree, let's actually get working on it. And for that I have simply my pruning shears here and we will start to take a look at the different trees in here and go one by one, I would say, or at least one sector after the other, making our way around this tree. And I would start right here. We see a lot of ramification actually starting here. So I do not want to go in here too strongly because of course I want to keep this ramifying on here. And it's definitely also growing in this direction where we want to fill in the tree a little bit more again. So here, even though it could become a little bit laggy for now, I don't want to work on it. It is still quite green here, so there wouldn't be any new ramification probably happening if I would cut here now, so that we leave on. However, we have other growth here that is quite laggy, that comes out from other spots where there is already additional growth happening, so that we definitely take out. This one here is just growing upwards. I might even stunt the whole growth here a little bit, give it a start over. A lower branch here that might die back in the future. For now it only has one leaf on it. We leave it the way it is for the moment. Here we have a sole leaf that also looks a little bit damaged, so we take that out. Same holds true for this leaf here, especially the leaves that are really starting here from the actual trunk still. I try to remove them after a while because they become sickly anyway once there's really ramification going on, and then it makes sense to just take them out. Here we have a lot of growth happening that looks interesting, however it's not really ramifying, so we'll take it back to a woody part, hoping for some ramification here. And here we have a lot of branching out already happening, and there we need to of course then look like what do we want to take back a little bit, just to make it a little bit less crowded also for winter, because there will be of course less light, except if I put this under growth light, which also means it will be more difficult for leaves that are somewhat covered by other leaves to actually photosynthesize, and then they would die back. So why not clean out here a little bit, for example something like this, which is just one long shoot, not really any ramification going on. We just take out, prune the tip, the same back here. Here I see some ramification potential here, so we'll probably take it back to this leaf. Also here we have a definitely very long shoot that hasn't really started to ramify. And here now it starts slowly, and here in the back there's also potential for it. So we take this even back to here, just to shorten the length a little bit again, so this tree doesn't become too laggy, because especially with ficus that is something that can happen if we just let it grow wildly. It does tend to become a little bit laggy. Also up here, of course, the leader is always good to stunt a little bit, simply because, otherwise it will focus, now that we prune everything else and we don't prune the leader, it will focus a lot of energy still on growing in height. By stunting also the growth here a little bit, we encourage the trees to also throw out energies for those lower branches, to also give them a good possibility to grow and to develop a little bit more. What I have not worked on, but here we said we don't. However, I could go a little bit back to where the ramification has already happened before, so there is already branching out underneath here, to just shorten one of those branches also. in the line of potential leader, let's cut it back a little bit for the tree to focus its energy somewhere else. This is still growing quite upwards, but for now, I would actually like to take this out and give it a little bit of a start over, maybe up to here. Leave 2-3 leaves on here. That definitely will be enough for it to still grow. And then we're already here in the back with, again, somewhat laggy growth happening that I would at least also take back to, and probably even further, take back to here. And here we have this growth that I mentioned that is starting to fill in this gap that has formed here, that formed after we took a branch out. And it isn't really ramifying yet, and last time we didn't work on it because it wasn't woody yet. Now I can see it's starting to become woody, so I will take it back for now, which of course opens this gap again a little bit more, but we will have hopefully some ramification going on here, and then it really starts to fill it, not just with one long shoot, but with actual growth that fits to the overall design of this tree. Here we are very crowded, I can see that, which at first is not really a problem. It's good if one of those pads is developing very nicely and very thickly. We just take out any growth that looks somewhat out of place. For example, here a very long shoot from this lower branch that we can take out. Here maybe the one or the other rogue tip that we can also take out. And that already just brings it a little bit down again and gives it a little bit more shape. There's some dead aerial roots that we can also take out. This one unfortunately here has also not reached the soil, we can take it out. And that already looks quite nicely. Let's take one more turn around this tree. It is still quite bushy, I must say, but I don't want to go completely bare as I would do, for example, at the start of growth season. We're now at the end of growth season. We don't have to go completely stripping it down. This is more of a maintenance prune, definitely, just so it over winter is set up in the most optimal way. And I think we are already getting there, I would say. Let me also look at the wire if it cuts into the branches somewhere, because now it will slow down over winter. If we leave it on, it shouldn't be a problem over the next couple of months. However, if it already would now start to bite into the bark, that would be definitely something we would need to take care of right away. But it is still fine anywhere I can see. Doesn't look to be biting into the bark yet. Up here, I would probably also... No, I would leave that on. As I said, we're not really going too much into detail here. Here in the back, I might want to take some growth out still, just to make sure everything in here. Here we have some growth that is growing straight up, so we can also take this out, freeing up some space in here. Let me see if we have that also somewhere on the other side. We have a lot of branching going on here, some dieback branching, I think. Some smaller ones. Good time to also clean that out. Just freeing up some space here. But yes, I think for now this is all I want to do on this tree today. As I said, just a little prune for the end of growth season. Now, what is the care will provide this tree with over the next couple of weeks and months? It's of course looking at the need of water for this tree. It will probably slow down a little bit now that the temperatures are simply falling. I will see if it continues to grow, if I need to fertilize also at that time, if I will use liquid fertilizer. What I might plan this cold season is actually to go into dry fertilizer, into those little pebbles, for example, or the little sticks that you put into the soil, because I think for winter some fertilization that way is probably a little bit better, because it just continuously provides the tree with the nutrients that it needs. And I think winter is a good time to test that on some of my trees. And yeah, make sure it stays in the spot it has been staying now also in growth season with a lot of sunlight. I might also look into getting a grow light for this one, because it has such prolific growth and it would help us with achieving the fusion a little bit faster if it also grows over winter. But I will keep you up to date on the little projects I'm still planning for this tree and any other trees. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. If you enjoy my channel, feel free to subscribe to it to not miss any additional videos in the future, and hopefully I will see you then in the future. Until then, take care.